Thank you very much, Victoria. That was lovely. And good morning, students, members of the faculty, parents, friends, and distinguished guests. It is a huge honor and pleasure to be talking to you on this very special day, which I can say with great authority you will never forget. So 38 years ago, I was sitting where you're sitting in a dress that I borrowed from my roomie and some very tight, uncomfortable shoes that I'd bought from Payless Shoe Source in Las Vegas, a shop which I very much doubt still exists today. But anyway, I was waiting to come up on stage to receive my diploma from Armand Hammer, the oil tycoon whose name was attached to the school and who was by then a very old man. He made a speech which included the impressive throwaway line, "Back in Moscow when I met Lenin." So my parents weren't here that day, as Victoria was explaining. Airfares were much more expensive back then. But I wrote to them afterwards to let them know that I had shaken hands with a man who had shaken hands with the architect of the Russian Revolution. So now none of you can be in any doubt as to quite how old I am. But today, I am more than just delighted to be making this speech. In the strange way that the world works, I found out that I was this year's recipient of the Giulio Regeni Alumni Impact Award on the same day that I experienced pretty much the worst thing that can happen to a newspaper editor. It was Wednesday, March the 29th. And I wasn't even 4 weeks into my new job as editor-in-chief at the Wall Street Journal. And that morning, I had received the wonderful news from Reed Baumgarten about the award. This was a tremendous honor, not least because when Giulio was murdered in 2016, I was involved in covering the story for the paper I then worked for in the United Kingdom. Round about lunchtime that same day, the managing editor came to see me. The managing editor of my newspaper came to see me for a routine catch-up on some matter related to the paper. But on her way out of my office, she mentioned that one of our correspondents reporting in Russia hadn't checked in when he was supposed to. Now, I didn't think too much of it, but a few hours later, I looked up to see Liz heading back to my office, and I knew from the way she was walking that she was bringing bad news. And she was. Evan Gershkovich, our reporter in Russia, had missed his second check-in. And by now, we were very, very worried. When I went to bed that night, I said to Liz, "Don't ring me if it's good news." At 4 a.m, my phone rang. Evan had been arrested, accused of espionage, and was on his way to Moscow's notorious Lefortovo prison. Today, 52 days since Evan's arrest, he is still in prison in Moscow, being held on totally bogus charges of spying. The Wall Street Journal, Evan's family, and the US government deny these charges, which carry no weight whatsoever. And it's nothing short of an outrage that a journalist accredited by the Russian Foreign Ministry to report from the country was arrested and wrongfully detained simply for doing his job. Giulio Regeni was not a journalist, but a researcher doing very similar work. He was an academic in Egypt researching that country's independent trade unions. Like Evan, he was seeking to establish the truth. For doing so, he was murdered. Giulio paid the ultimate price for his brave inquisitiveness. And today, all over the world, the sad truth is that it's getting harder and more dangerous for people like Giulio and Evan to do their jobs safely. And this is something that we should all care about. An independent press, the right to report freely, to hold those in power to account, is a cornerstone of democracy. At the same time, the advent of digital technology and the spread of social media have given rise to and emboldened the spread of fake news, conspiracy theories, and deep fakes. Never has there been a more important time for independent, verified, trusted information. Now, I have no idea how many of you sitting out there today are fledgling journalists, but I do know that you've been the lucky recipients of one of the best, most exciting, richest educations in the most beautiful place on earth that anyone could hope to receive. The sort of education that encourages you, wherever you end up, to advocate for the truth, to push for independent verification of facts, to resist the forces that seek to muddy the waters in order to protect their own interests. This won't always make you popular, but I truly believe that the privilege of an education such as the one that you have received creates an obligation to speak up for something that should be non-negotiable, the facts. Now, I was just going to say that this all sounds important and noble, and it is, but I would be fibbing if I told you that I became a journalist purely in order to speak truth to power and uphold democracy. To be perfectly honest, I liked writing. I tried my hand at student journalism. I had very little other idea about what to do with my life, and above all, I thought it looked like great fun, which it was. Journalism has taken me to interesting places, it's got me in front of interesting characters, and it's allowed me to indulge my natural curiosity and nosiness every day of the week. So, what have I learned and what advice can I pass on? Number one, don't rush. Life is long and you're all likely to be working well into your old ages, so take your time. Number two, accept that your career will not always head in a straight upwards trajectory. I've had long patches in mine when I was effectively treading water, often because I had other priorities, such as my 3 sons. Number three, say yes to opportunities that scare the living daylights out of you. It's very, very easy to stay in our comfort zones, but here's the thing. The people above you who offer you chances want you to succeed. We all remember what it was like to be your age, and we're not judging. Early on in my career, I agreed to go on live television. It was an absolute disaster. I was too terrified to speak, and when I did, I fluffed my words. I went bright pink under the studio lights, and even though the program went out to a minuscule audience, I was utterly mortified and vowed never to do live TV again. Well, I'm old enough now to look back and know that it really, really didn't matter, and that my lifelong aversion to live broadcasting, lately put to bed because of my need to go on radio and television to advocate for Evan, was a wasted opportunity. My final piece of advice is simple. Stay close to your friends. Your lives will ebb and flow. I'm going to start crying now. I'll try not to. You will move together. You'll move apart. Families and geography will intervene. But know that those bonds, oh, sorry. I haven't even finished yet. Oh dear, right. Onwards, right. Yes, you will always be there for each other. And on that note, this is the bit where I'm really going to cry, so deep breath. I'm going to end by quoting to you from one such friend of mine, a wonderful Colombian woman who was in my year at UWC and who is now my dearest friend. We could not be more different. I am very British and she is very Colombian. But last week I wrote to her and I said, I would like to give some Southern Hemisphere advice to the students alongside my Northern Hemisphere reflections. And here is what she said. Enjoy life and be consciente every minute of the beautiful world we have. Be grateful and give a lot because we are the lucky guys who have received so much in life. Most importantly of all, tell them that you have a beautiful, sexy Colombian friend who has been with you and you for her in your ups and downs, and neither of you thought, aged 18, that this friendship would be so important for each other's lives. So, dear students, look around you now at the wonderful friends you have made. Stay with them as you branch out into the world. Be good, stand up for the truth, and above all, have a fantastic day today. As someone who sat the IB 38 years ago, I know from the bottom of my heart quite how much you deserve it. Thank you.